unilaterally brought the United States into a war without congressional approval is a very grave public admission. It is illegal, it is unconstitutional, and so for me, while the president is posting something about a ceasefire, I think what he also posted was an official acknowledgement that this was war. And I think that is something that should be taken into very serious consideration.
There are a lot of Democrats who are throwing cold water on the idea that the president deserves to be impeached over this and saying that you shouldn't be throwing around impeachment given it's such a grave, serious matter. What do you say with that?
I mean, of course, everyone can have their differences of opinion regarding that matter. A resolution has not been filed, and not filed in a privileged sense. I believe that a president bombing and bringing this country into direct conflict with another nation state without notifying, full notification of Congress, without congressional approval, endangering service members, U.S. military bases, not providing intelligence is reckless. I think that, and we know that this is not a left or right issue. An overwhelming amount of Americans are opposed to the United States being dragged into war. And if we want to talk about serious decisions, I think the serious decision of entering the United States into direct conflict without any legal approval, unconstitutionally, is the grave decision that we need to be talking about right now.
Thank you so much. We have to go.
Height right now, in both parties, right? I mean, that's literally the only thing that both parties agree on right now is that, they both can agree on hating Jews. And so, look, I have a police officer outside of my house 24 hours a day. I get constant threats. Anytime I put something online, I'm constantly pointed out that I'm a Jewish member. You see Jewish businesses, Jewish people walking around the streets being targeted. And we got to reject all forms of hate, of course. But right now it seems that, hating Jews is the cool thing to do. It's in vogue. It's hot on TikTok, and it's a real problem in this country. It reminds me of the things my grandmother told me, and she was part of the Kindertransport out of Germany and survived the Holocaust.
Do you think the president deserves credit for what happened in Iran?
Look, if you're telling me that Israel was able to degrade the Iranian military, and the president was able to degrade Iran's nuclear capabilities in 12 days, and Iran was unable to respond in any meaningful way, and no American was harmed in the process, that sounds like a win for the country.
Would you think there should be a vote? Should Congress have a vote? Should Congress have a vote?
I think Congress should reassert its authority back in this area and many areas in general. I think now the vote on Iran is moot, but I do think we should probably take back some of the war powers and a lot of the power that we've given to the executive branch. It appears that there's confirmation coming out of the Iranian regime. I know there's conflicting reports, but that's probably because people in the Iranian...
Israel says that Iran violated the peace agreement and the ceasefire agreement. Do you believe that Iran is still committed to peace?
Yeah, I do. They violated it, but Israel violated it too.
Are you questioning if Israel is committed?
Israel, as soon as we made the deal, they came out and they dropped a load of bombs, the likes of which I'd never seen before. The biggest load that we've seen. I'm not happy with Israel. When I say, okay, now you have 12 hours, you don't go out in the first hour and just drop everything you have on them. So I'm not happy with them. I'm not happy with Iran either. But I'm really unhappy if Israel's going out this morning because of one rocket that didn't land, that was shot, perhaps by mistake, that didn't land. I'm not happy about that. You know what? We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the fuck they're doing. Do you understand that?
Do you have to respond to Iran on this?
Brian, it should be noted that through Iranian state TV, the Iranian political echelon is denying that they had anything to do with this violation of the ceasefire. But just when the ceasefire was about 4 hours old, the IDF now says it was 2 missiles that flew into the north of Israel, both of them intercepted, resulting in no injury, but resulting in a fierce response from the top of the military echelons here in Israel. Defense Minister Yisrael Katz saying, I have instructed the IDF to respond forcefully to Iran's violation of the ceasefire with high-intensity strikes against regime targets. Now, just hours before that, as the ceasefire was ready to take hold, about 5 waves of missiles came at Israel. One of the missiles got through the Israeli defenses and hit here in the town of Beersheba. That is the destruction that you see behind me. In recent minutes, we have seen the volunteers from Zaka combing through the rubble, trying to gather the remains of people who may be inside of the rubble. The Zaka volunteers are the people with the grim task of putting people back together for a proper Jewish burial. We do know that 4 people were inside of a bomb room. Those bomb rooms do a good job of protecting people in the blast radius, but in this case, it took a direct hit. Here's a spokesman from Homefront Command.
What we understand currently, that the family was inside the shelter, and unfortunately, when we have a direct hit, a direct strike of a missile in the shelter, it did not always help.
Now, 26 people were wounded. Their wounds vary in degrees of severity. But after the missile strikes went in, the Israeli fighter jets were in the air over Iran. They located the launchers. They fired on those launchers. So you have fresh rounds of missiles that came in immediately as the ceasefire was taking hold or was about to take hold. And then you have 2 missiles that had no impact but violated the ceasefire according to the Israelis, and Iran denying it. So the ceasefire now is fragile at best.
Question is, ceasefire, what up with it? Again, I know nothing because this man lies and governs by Truth Social. So I have no idea. All we know is what we get on the reporting, which supposedly part of the ceasefire includes Israel stopping what they're doing. And so I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. So I don't get Israel briefings. At this point, I'm not getting U.S. briefings. So I don't know. I don't know that I would believe it. I think we will know when we get reports that ain't nobody else being attacked.
Well, joining us now is CNN military analyst, retired U.S. Air Force Colonel Cedric Leighton. First, I want to ask, Cedric, your read of what's happening right now, because by the president's math, and let's be frank, the tweet announcing the ceasefire involves some math, the number of hours after which it was going to take place and who was going to start and who was going to come second. Regardless, it was supposed to take effect at midnight. There has now been a strike within minutes of that midnight deadline, though prior in southern Israel that has claimed the lives of at least 3 Israelis at this point. Does the ceasefire hold in those circumstances?
Well, it depends, Jim. It could, and I guess technically that strike occurred just before the ceasefire deadline, so there would be no direct reason from that standpoint to break things off. But the very fact that there was such an aggressive action and that 3 people were killed, of course, could change things very quickly. So it's possible that it won't hold, but I think at this particular point in time, we just have to see what the Israelis end up doing, and of course, if they do something, what the Iranians do in response. So it's one of those situations where it could go either way, basically.
Now, typically in a ceasefire, there is communication about the ground rules. What we're working off now is a tweet from the president, or a post to Truth Social, a statement from Iranian state media saying that they are going to join the ceasefire as well. We have not, though, heard public comment from Israeli officials. What's the significance of that?
Well, that is extremely significant because that may indicate that the Israelis may not be following the guidelines of the ceasefire, of the supposed ceasefire. But you're absolutely right. Under normal circumstances, there are some ground rules that are set up. There's a very intricate process in some cases where they have a demarcation line. If there are troops in contact, in this case, there won't be troops in contact. But what they would say is, as of this point in time, you won't fly over our territory, and the other side won't send missiles and rockets and drones in the other direction. So those are the kinds of things that should have been agreed to. We don't know whether or not there were any type of ground rules like that set up, but it sounds like this was very quickly done, and that there might be some really ad hoc rules, if you will, put into place here, and there might not be a sufficient series of rules to keep this viable. There's also no, as far as I can tell, at least no enforcement mechanism for any of this, and that's a significant shortfall, I would say.
Before you go, why? What's our best sense as to why the parties would sign on to a ceasefire now? It strikes me that Israel has gotten a lot of what it wanted. One, to do serious damage to Iran's nuclear program, along with U.S. strikes to nuclear sites, and extreme damage to missile installations, drone production facilities, you name it, as well as early warning systems. Iran might be calculating that it needs a pause, right? It needs a breather after suffering that damage. Do those dynamics point to the possibility that perhaps a ceasefire holds, that Israel believes it has a win, something of win, and Iran needs a breather?
Well, that is possible. Of course, the Iranians are going to do something to couch what they've done as somewhat of a victory so that they can sell it to their public. But yeah, I think when you look at it in an objective way, it becomes pretty clear that the Israelis have achieved a lot of their goals, a lot of their, in essence, war aims that they set out to accomplish. They have basically decimated the entire air defense structure of Iran, and on the western side of the country, at least. They have rendered basically inoperable a lot of the air force of the Islamic Republic, and they have, in essence, proven that they can create air supremacy, at least, if not air dominance, over a large portion of Iran. So those are significant things. And then the other thing that the Israelis did was they accomplished a goal that they had for a very long time, and that is to get the United States to come in on their side to eliminate, or at least ostensibly eliminate, the nuclear structures that Iran set up, especially the Fordo plant there, the Fordo installation. So that's a significant aspect. So in that sense, it's very possible that it will hold at least for a while, because these aims have been achieved on Israel's side, and the Iranians, they basically need that opportunity to regroup and figure out what they're going to do next.
Yeah, it's a great point. Israel has been pushing the U.S. to join in strikes on Iran's nuclear program for some time. Cedric Layton, thanks so much. We continue to track the latest.
We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the fuck they're doing. You understand that?
Do you